She wasn't supposed to wake up in a stranger's penthouse. She definitely wasn't supposed to wake up next to him. And she absolutely wasn't supposed to find out, 3 hours later, in a boardroom full of suits, that the man she accidentally slept with was her company's biggest rival. Chapter 1. One night, one terrible decision. Avery Tan did not make reckless decisions. She made calculated ones, strategic ones, the kind that came with spreadsheets, pros and cons lists, and at least 3 backup plans. That's how she had survived working at Nexacor, one of Singapore's most competitive tech firms, where a single misstep could cost you your career. So when her coworker Janelle shoved a champagne flute into her hand and yelled, "Tonight you're not allowed to be boring," Avery should have known things were about to go very wrong. "I'm not boring," Avery protested, adjusting the sleeve of her blazer. Janelle snorted. "You color code your emails." "That's efficient." "That's tragic." The rooftop bar glittered with city lights, music poolsing softly beneath conversations and laughter. Clients mingled with executives, and everything felt just a little too polished. Avery took a cautious sip of her drink. Then another. Then, somewhere between celebrating a successful deal and Janelle disappearing onto the dance floor, Avery stopped thinking so much. That's when she noticed him. He wasn't trying to stand out, which made him stand out more. Tall, composed, leaning casually against the bar like the world moved at his pace instead of the other way around. Their eyes met. And he smiled. Not polite, not professional. Dangerous. Avery immediately looked away. Bad idea. Do not engage. She took another sip of her drink. When she looked back, he was closer. "Careful," he said lightly. "You look like someone about to make a bad decision." Avery blinked. "Excuse me." He gestured to her half-empty glass. Third drink, slightly unfocused eyes, questionable confidence. Her mouth fell open. "Are you profiling me?" "Observing," he corrected. She narrowed her eyes. "And what do your observations say?" "That you don't usually do this." "And what is this?" "Let go." Something about the way he said it, calm, certain, made her chest tighten. "You don't know me," she said. "No," he agreed, "but I'd like to." That should have been her cue to leave. Instead, she said, "That line works on people." "Not usually," he admitted, "but you don't seem like people." She laughed before she could stop herself. That was mistake number 1. By the time they reached the private elevator, Avery had forgotten to be cautious. "What's your name?" she asked. He tilted his head. "Does it matter?" "It does if I wake up tomorrow and regret this." His lips curved. "You're planning ahead already." "I'm realistic." "Then let's keep it simple," he said. "No names, no expectations." Avery hesitated. This was insane. Irresponsible. Completely unlike her. "Fine," she said. Mistake number 2. Chapter 2. The morning after disaster. Avery woke up to sunlight and regret. Her head throbbed faintly, but not nearly as much as her dignity. She shifted and froze. There was a man in her bed. No. Not her bed. Definitely not her bed. The sheets were too soft, the ceiling too high, the room too expensive. And the man beside her was very much real. He was already awake, propped up on one elbow, watching her like this was the most normal thing in the world. "Morning," he said. Avery stared at him. "Tell me we just talked." His eyebrow lifted. "If that's what you need to believe." Her face burned. "Oh my God." She buried herself in the pillow. "Okay," she muttered. "New plan, I'm disappearing." "That seems dramatic." "I slept with a stranger," she shot back. "That's not dramatic, that's a crisis." He chuckled, a low, warm sound that made her stomach flip in a way she refused to acknowledge. "You don't seem like someone who panics easily." "I don't," she said, "which makes this worse." She sat up abruptly, clutching the sheet around her like armor. Okay, ground rules, this never happened. Bit late for that, he said mildly. You know what I mean. He studied her for a moment, then nodded. No names, no strings. Avery blinked. That was easier than expected. Right, she said quickly. Good, perfect, great. Why did that feel slightly disappointing? She ignored the thought. 10 minutes later, she was dressed, composed, and ready to pretend this entire situation had never existed. She paused at the door. Hey, he said. She turned. For what it's worth, he added, I don't think you'll regret it. Avery raised an eyebrow. That sounds very confident. It is. She hesitated. Then, despite herself, she smiled. Goodbye, stranger. Goodbye, he said. She left without looking back. Mistake number 3. Chapter 3, the worst meeting of her life. 3 hours later, Avery sat in Nexacor's sleek glass conference room, completely back in control. Hair tied neatly, blazer pressed, expression calm. No one would ever guess what she had done less than half a day ago. Big meeting, her boss murmured. Vierks Holdings. Avery nodded. I've prepared the projections. Good, he said. Their CEO is ruthless. She allowed herself a small, confident smile. I can handle ruthless. The door opened, and her entire world collapsed. He walked in like he owned the building. Same sharp eyes, same calm confidence. Same man. A pleasure to meet you all, he said smoothly. Lucas Co., CEO of Vierks. Avery stopped breathing. He met her gaze and smiled. Not dangerous this time. Worse. Knowing. Avery Tan had handled million-dollar negotiations without breaking a sweat. She had presented in front of investors twice her age, dismantled competitors with calm precision, and once corrected her CEO mid-meeting without blinking. But nothing had prepared her for this. Lucas Co. Standing across the boardroom like he hadn't been in her bed just hours ago. Like he hadn't kissed her breathless. Like he didn't know exactly what she sounded like when she lost control. A pleasure to meet you all. His voice was smooth, controlled, professional. Avery gripped her pen so tightly, it nearly snapped. Her boss stood. Mr. Co., welcome. We've been looking forward to this discussion. Lucas shook his hand, polite and composed. Then his gaze flicked to her. Just for a second. But it was enough. Heat shot up her spine like a memory she couldn't erase. Focus. She straightened her posture, forcing her expression into something neutral. You are a professional. You are calm. You did not accidentally sleep with your company's biggest rival. Let's begin, her boss said. The presentation started smoothly. Slides, numbers, market projections. Avery spoke clearly, confidently, like nothing was wrong. Until Lucas interrupted. Your growth estimates, he said, tapping the table lightly, are optimistic. Avery turned to face him. Ambitious, she corrected. He leaned back slightly, studying her. Ambition without caution tends to collapse. She held his gaze, and caution without ambition leads to stagnation. A pause. Then, he smiled. Slow, amused. Like this was suddenly more interesting than the entire deal. The room didn't notice. But Avery did. And it made her pulse spike. Halfway through the meeting, Avery reached for her glass of water. Lucas leaned slightly toward her as she passed behind his chair. You left early. Her hand slipped. Water splashed onto the table. She coughed, trying to recover. Excuse me. No problem, someone said, handing her tissues. But Lucas didn't move. Didn't help. Didn't look away. You didn't give me your name, she muttered under her breath as she wiped the spill. You didn't ask, he replied calmly. She shot him a glare. He looked entirely unbothered. By the end of the meeting, Avery was mentally exhausted. Not from the negotiation. From him. Every glance, every subtle comment, every moment that felt like a private conversation, hidden inside a professional one. As everyone stood to leave, her boss clapped her lightly on the shoulder. "Great work," he said quietly. "You held your ground well." Avery forced a smile. "Thank you." Lucas approached. Of course he did. "Ms. Tan," he said smoothly. "Impressive presentation." "Mr. Coe," she replied, equally polished. "Thank you." They stood there. Too close. Too aware. "You're quieter today," he added. Avery blinked. "I don't know what you're talking about." "No," he said softly. "You seemed less restrained last night." Her face went completely still. "If you're trying to be inappropriate." "I'm trying to understand," he cut in, voice low enough that no one else could hear. "Why you're pretending you don't recognize me." "I recognize you," she said tightly. How reassuring. She stepped closer, just enough to make her point. This was a mistake. His gaze didn't waver. Was it? Avery hesitated. That half-second cost her. Because he saw it. And his expression shifted, just slightly. Victory. She straightened. It won't happen again. Lucas tilted his head. We'll see. Chapter 4. Damage control or lack thereof. Avery spent the next 48 hours trying to pretend Lucas Coe didn't exist. It didn't work. He existed in emails. In meeting summaries. In every conversation about Vyerk's holdings. And most annoyingly, in her thoughts. "Why are you staring at your screen like it offended you?" Janelle asked, dropping into the chair beside her. "I'm not." "You are," she said. "You've opened the same email 5 times." Avery sighed. "It's just work." "Liar." Avery turned slowly. "Excuse me." Janelle grinned. "You only look like that when something interesting is happening." "Nothing interesting is happening." "Then why are you blushing?" "I am not blushing." "You are," Janelle said cheerfully. "So, who is he?" Avery choked. "There is no he." "Uh-huh." "I'm serious." Janelle leaned forward. "Wait, is it someone from the event?" "No." "Someone from the meeting?" "No." "Someone from both?" Avery froze. Janelle gasped. "I knew it." "Keep your voice down," Avery hissed. "Oh my God," Janelle whispered loudly. "You didn't." "I didn't." "You did." "I did." Janelle stared at her. Then burst into laughter. "You slept with someone from Vyerk's." Avery covered her face. "I hate you." "Who is it?" Janelle demanded. "Tell me everything." "I can't." "Why not?" "Because," Avery said slowly, "it's worse than that." Janelle leaned closer. "How much worse?" Avery took a deep breath. "He's the CEO." Silence. Then, Janelle screamed. "You slept with Lucskoh." Stop saying his name so loudly. Janelle was practically vibrating. "This is insane. This is the best thing that has ever happened." "This is the worst thing that has ever happened," Avery corrected. No, Janelle said. "This is movie-level drama." "This is career-ending," Avery snapped. "Was he good?" Janelle asked immediately. Avery paused. "That's not the point." "That means yes." Avery threw a pen at her. Unfortunately, avoiding Lucas became impossible. Because he didn't seem to have any intention of avoiding her. At the next joint meeting, he arrived early. And took the seat directly across from hers. Of course. "Good morning," he said. "Mr. Coe." "Avery." She froze. "You don't get to call me that," she said. He raised an eyebrow. "Why not? You didn't seem to mind before." "That was different." "How?" She opened her mouth. closed it, glared. He smiled. The meeting began, and quickly turned into a battle. Every point Avery made, Lucas challenged. Every proposal, he dissected. Not aggressively. Precisely. Like he was testing her. Pushing her. Seeing how far she could go. You're assuming market stability, he said. I'm accounting for calculated risk, she replied. You're underestimating volatility. You're overestimating fear. Their voices overlapped. The room watched. Fascinated. Because this wasn't just a discussion anymore. It was chemistry. Sharp, electric, unavoidable. After the meeting, Avery packed her things quickly. She needed space. Distance. Oxygen. Avery. She closed her eyes briefly. Then turned. Yes. Lucas stepped closer. Not too close. But close enough. You're avoiding me. I'm working. You're deflecting. I'm busy. You're lying. She folded her arms. What do you want? His expression softened, just slightly. Dinner. She blinked. What? Dinner, he repeated. That's not happening. Why not? Because we are rivals. And I work for the company you're trying to beat. That hasn't stopped us before. That was before I knew who you were. And now, he asked quietly. Avery hesitated. Again. And again. He noticed. This is a bad idea, she said finally. Probably, he agreed. Complicated. Definitely. Unprofessional. Without question. She narrowed her eyes. You're not helping. He smiled slightly. I'm not trying to. Avery stared at him. At the calm confidence. At the way he didn't push, but didn't back down either. At how, despite everything. She wanted to say yes. One dinner, she said. His smile deepened. Good. And this doesn't change anything. Of course not. It already had. Chapter 5, Enemies with Complications. Avery spent the entire afternoon regretting her decision. Not the first bad decision. The second one. Dinner. With Lucas Co., CEO of Vierks. Professional rival. Personal disaster. What are you wearing? Janelle demanded. Standing in Avery's apartment like this was a national emergency. It's just dinner. With the man you accidentally slept with, Janelle said. Correction, the CEO you accidentally slept with. Avery pinched the bridge of her nose. You're not helping. You need help, Janelle replied. This is not a grab noodles and go home situation. It's not a date. Janelle paused, then slowly smiled. Oh, she said, that means it's definitely a date. Avery groaned. She chose something simple. A fitted black dress, clean lines, effortless. Professional, but not too professional. She stared at herself in the mirror. You look like you're about to negotiate a merger, Janelle said. That's appropriate, Avery replied. You look like you're trying not to kiss him again. Avery turned. I am not. She stopped. Because Janelle was right. And that was the problem. The restaurant Lucas chose was exactly what she expected. Elegant, private, the kind of place where deals were made quietly and mistakes lingered longer than they should. He was already there. Of course he was. Leaning back in his chair, completely at ease, like the world adjusted itself around him. His gaze lifted when she approached. And for a brief second, he looked caught off guard. You clean up well, he said. Avery raised an eyebrow. I always do. I noticed. Her pulse skipped. She sat down. Let's establish something, she said immediately. This is not personal. Of course not, he replied smoothly. This is not emotional. Clearly. This is just dinner. Lucas nodded. Then why, he asked, do you look like you're preparing for war? Avery paused. Because I am. He smiled. Dinner started with polite conversation. Work, industry trends, market shifts. Safe topics. Neutral ground. But it didn't stay that way. You're different here, Lucas said at one point. Avery glanced up. How? Less guarded. She scoffed. I'm always guarded. No, he said. At work you're controlled, strategic. And now? He studied her. Now you're trying not to be. Avery looked away first. That's not true. It is, he said quietly. Silence stretched between them. Not uncomfortable. Just real. Why didn't you tell me who you were? She asked suddenly. Lucas didn't hesitate. You didn't ask. That's not an answer. It is, he said, just not the one you want. Avery leaned forward. You knew. I suspected, he admitted. And you still. Yes. Her breath caught. The honesty hit harder than she expected. You're unbelievable, she said. I've been told. You let me walk into that meeting blind. And you handled it anyway. That's not the point. It is to me. Avery frowned. What does that mean? Lucas leaned back slightly. It means, he said, you didn't need an advantage. Her expression softened, just a fraction. That's not fair. Why not? Because now, I don't know if I should be annoyed or impressed. He smiled. Be both. By the time dessert arrived, the tension had shifted. Less sharp. More charged. Avery found herself laughing. Actually laughing. You're terrible, she said. I'm honest. You're annoying. You keep showing up anyway. She opened her mouth. Then stopped. Because he was right. And that annoyed her even more. When dinner ended, neither of them moved. See, Avery said, nothing changed. Lucas tilted his head. Is that what you think? Yes. You're lying again. I'm not. You are, he said calmly. She crossed her arms. Prove it. He leaned forward slightly. Not touching her. Not yet. You're still here. Avery's breath hitched. That doesn't mean anything. It does to me. Her chest tightened. Lucas. He said her name like it meant something. Like it mattered. And suddenly, this didn't feel like a mistake anymore. That was the problem. Chapter 6, lines begin to blur. After dinner, Avery told herself that was it. One dinner. One moment. Back to normal. Except, normal didn't come back. It started small. Messages. Short, casual, harmless. Lucas, you were wrong about the projections. Avery, you wish. Lucas, I'm always right. Avery, that's your first mistake. Then, late-night conversations. Not about work. About everything else. Why tech? He asked one night. Avery sat on her couch, phone pressed to her ear. Because I like solving problems, she said. Efficient answer. It's the truth. It's not the whole truth. She frowned. You do this a lot. Do what? Act like you know things I don't say. I do, he replied simply. Avery rolled her eyes. I grew up fixing things, she admitted after a pause. It's what I'm good at. Silence. Then. Yeah, Lucas said softly. You are. Something in her chest shifted. They started seeing each other more. Unplanned. Coincidental. Or so they pretended. Coffee runs that turned into conversations. Meetings that lingered longer than necessary. Moments that stretched just a little too far. One evening, they got stuck in the office elevator. Of course they did. Avery pressed the button repeatedly. This is ridiculous. It'll start again, Lucas said. You don't know that. I do. You sound very confident for someone trapped in a metal box. He glanced at her. I've been in worse situations. Her heart skipped. Like what? His gaze held hers. Waking up next to you without knowing your name. Avery stared at him. Then, she laughed. I was the worst part of that situation. You were the most unpredictable part. That's not a compliment. It is to me. The elevator jolted. But neither of them moved. You're dangerous, Avery said quietly. Lucas raised an eyebrow. To you. Yes. How? She hesitated. Because the answer was obvious. You make things complicated. His expression softened. Or, he said, I make things honest. That hit deeper than she expected. Weeks passed. And the line between rivals and something else blurred completely. One night, standing outside her apartment, Avery said, This has to stop. Lucas looked at her. Why? Because it's messy. Since when do you avoid messy? Since it started affecting everything. He stepped closer. Not enough to overwhelm her. Just enough to matter. And is it affecting you? He asked. Avery swallowed. Yes. How? She looked up at him. And for once, she didn't deflect. I don't know how to separate this from work anymore. Lucas didn't respond immediately. Then, maybe you're not supposed to. Her breath caught. That's not how this works. Maybe it should be. Avery shook her head. You're asking me to risk everything. I'm not asking you to do anything, he said quietly. That's worse. He almost smiled. Yeah, he said, it is. She should have walked away. She didn't. Instead, she stepped closer. Just enough to erase the space between them. Lucas, she said softly, this is a bad idea. I know. Complicated. Definitely. Dangerous. He met her gaze. Worth it. Avery hesitated. Only for a second. Yes. That was all it took. Chapter 7, Secrets and Stakes. By the time Avery realized she was in too deep, it was already too late. It showed up in small ways first. She checked her phone more often. Not for work. For him. She noticed when his messages came later than usual. When his tone shifted. When something felt off. You're distracted, her boss said one morning mid-meeting. Avery blinked. I'm not. You just agreed to a projection we haven't reviewed. She froze. Right. Focus. Sorry, she said quickly. Let me revisit that. Her boss studied her for a moment longer than necessary. Avery forced herself back into rhythm. Numbers, data, logic. Safe things. Things that didn't feel like Lucas Co. That evening, she met him again. Not planned. Not accidental either. They had started orbiting each other, like gravity had already decided. You're quiet, he said, handing her a coffee. You're late, she replied. He raised a brow. That's your first comment. I had higher expectations. I'll try to be more disappointing next time. She huffed a small laugh despite herself. Then, she looked at him properly. And something clicked. You're hiding something. Lucas stilled. Just for a second. But Avery saw it. I'm not, he said. You are, she insisted. You do this thing. What thing? You go still, like you've already made a decision you're not telling me about. He studied her. And that look. It wasn't teasing anymore. It was careful. That's very specific, he said. Because I've been paying attention. Silence. Then, maybe you shouldn't. That landed harder than she expected. Why not? She asked quietly. Lucas looked away. That's not a good habit to have around me. Avery frowned. That's not an answer. It's the only one I'm giving. That night, Avery couldn't sleep. Her instincts were sharp for a reason, and they were telling her something wasn't right. 2 days later, she found out why. It was supposed to be a routine internal briefing. Confidential, high level. Only senior staff. Avery sat at the table, flipping through the documents, until one page made her freeze. Project Helix. A new expansion initiative. Aggressive, strategic, and terrifyingly familiar. Her heart started pounding, because she had seen this before. Not here. With him. You've seen something like this, her boss said, watching her reaction. Avery's throat went dry. Where did we get this information? Does it matter? He replied. What matters is Vierks is planning a major move. Her stomach dropped. Are we certain this is accurate? Completely, he said, which is why we need to act first. The room buzzed with tension. But Avery heard none of it. Because one thought kept repeating. Lucas knew. That evening, she didn't wait. She went straight to him. Tell me it's not true. Lucas looked up as she entered his office. No surprise. No confusion. Just recognition. You shouldn't be here, he said calmly. Project Helix, she said. His expression didn't change. That's confidential. So is everything I just saw. Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. You used me, Avery said. The words felt sharp, fragile. Lucas stood slowly. No. Don't lie to me, she snapped. You knew who I was that night. You knew where I worked. You knew. I didn't plan that. But you didn't stop it. That hit. She saw it. The slight tightening in his jaw. The shift in his eyes. That's different, he said. How? She demanded. Because I didn't expect you to matter. The words hung in the air. Too honest. Too late. Avery laughed. Short, broken. Wow, she said. That's supposed to make me feel better. It's the truth. It doesn't fix anything. I'm not trying to fix it, he said quietly. That hurt more than anything else. You could have told me, she said. And then what? He asked. You walk away. Yes. Exactly. She stared at him. You didn't give me a choice. No, he admitted. Silence. Thick, heavy. Irreversible. I trusted you, Avery said softly. Lucas didn't respond. And that said everything. Chapter 8, The Fallout. The fallout was immediate. Brutal. Unavoidable. Avery threw herself into work. Because work was safe. Work didn't lie. Work didn't look at her like Lucas had. You've been quiet, Janelle said carefully. I'm fine. You're not fine. I said I'm fine. Janelle crossed her arms. Did something happen with? Don't, Avery cut in. Janelle stopped. It's that bad. Avery looked away. Yes. At Nexicor, the pressure intensified. Vierks is moving faster than expected, her boss said. We need to stay ahead. Avery nodded. Focused. Sharp. Like before. Like nothing had changed. Except everything had. Across the city, Lucas faced his own consequences. You're distracted, his board member said. I'm not. You are, they insisted, and it's affecting decisions. Lucas didn't argue. Because for once, he didn't have a counter. Days passed. Then weeks. No messages. No calls. Nothing. Until one night, he showed up. Avery opened the door. And there he was, looking less composed than she'd ever seen him. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "I know. Then why are you?" He hesitated, which was new. "I needed to see you." Her chest tightened. "That's not a good reason. It's the only one I have." Silence. Familiar. Painful. "You hurt me," Avery said. Lucas didn't deny it. "I know. You lied. I didn't tell you everything." "That's the same thing." "Not to me." She shook her head. "That doesn't make it better." "I'm not trying to make it better." Frustration flared. "Then what are you trying to do?" He met her gaze. And for once, there was no control, no calculation. Just honesty. "I'm trying not to lose you." That broke something. "You already did," she said softly. The words hung there. Final. Sharp. Real. Lucas exhaled slowly. "Then I deserve that." Avery blinked. Because that wasn't what she expected. "You're not going to argue?" she asked. "No." "You're not going to convince me otherwise?" "No." "Why not?" He held her gaze. "Because you're right." Silence filled the space between them. But it felt different now. Not tense. Not electric. Just sad. "You should go," Avery said. Lucas nodded. He didn't move immediately. Just stood there. Like he wanted to say something else. But didn't. "Take care, Avery." Her name sounded different this time. Like something he was letting go of. She closed the door. And for the first time since all of this started, she cried. Chapter 9. Choosing Sides. Avery learned something about heartbreak. It didn't arrive loudly. It didn't shatter things all at once. It settled. Quietly. In the spaces between moments. She went back to who she used to be. Focused, controlled, efficient. No distractions. No late-night calls. No Lucas. "You're scary again," Janelle commented one afternoon. Avery didn't look up from her laptop. "I was always like this." "No," Janelle said. "You were sharp. This is cold." Avery paused. Just for a second. Then continued typing. "Cold is efficient." Janelle frowned. "Cold is lonely." Avery didn't respond. Weeks passed. Work consumed everything. Nexacor pushed forward aggressively, trying to outmaneuver Vierks at every turn. And Avery. She was at the center of it. "Your projections saved us time," her boss said. "We're moving ahead with your strategy." Avery nodded. "That's good." It should have felt like a win. It didn't. One evening, long after everyone had left, Avery sat alone in the office. The city lights reflected against the glass walls. Everything looked the same. But it felt different. Empty. Her phone buzzed. She froze. Slowly. She picked it up. A message. From Lucas. She stared at it. Didn't open it. Didn't delete it. Just looked. Then she locked her phone and went back to work. Across the city, Lucas stood in his office, staring at his own phone. No reply. He exhaled. Not surprised. Just disappointed. "You need to make a decision," his board member said earlier that day. Lucas leaned back in his chair. "About what?" "Your priorities," they replied. "Vierks is expanding. We can't afford hesitation." Lucas didn't answer immediately. Because for the first time, he wasn't sure what his priority was anymore. That night, he did something he hadn't done in years. He walked away from a deal. It wasn't impulsive. It wasn't reckless. It was deliberate. The next morning, Nexacor received unexpected news. Vierks withdrew, Avery's boss said, disbelief clear in his voice. Avery blinked. What? They pulled out of the expansion. That doesn't make sense. I agree, he said, but it gives us an opening. The room buzzed with excitement. Opportunity. Victory. But Avery felt something else. Confusion. Because Lucas Co. didn't walk away from opportunities. He took them. Every time. Ms. Tan, her boss said, drawing her attention, we want you to lead the next phase. Avery hesitated. Just for a second. Then, I'd like to propose something else. The room stilled. A partnership. Silence. Her boss frowned, with Vierks. Yes. That's risky. It's strategic, she countered. We've been competing for the same market. Combining resources gives us a stronger position. Or gives them leverage. Only if we let it, Avery said calmly. Her boss studied her. You're asking us to trust them. Avery held his gaze. I'm asking you to trust me. The proposal went forward. Reluctantly. Carefully. But it went. And that's how. 2 weeks later, Avery found herself walking into another boardroom. Lucas was already there. Of course he was. This time, there was no smirk. No teasing. No hidden meaning. Just distance. Ms. Tan, he said. Mr. Co. Professional. Polite. Strangers. The meeting began. Terms, conditions, negotiations. Avery stayed focused. Clear. Controlled. Until Lucas spoke. This partnership, he said, only works if there's transparency. Avery nodded. Agreed. Complete transparency. Her chest tightened. Yes. His gaze held hers. And for a moment, everything else faded. Then we start fresh, he said. Not as a CEO. Not as a rival. But as something else. Avery took a breath. And nodded. We start fresh. Chapter 10, a different kind of victory. The partnership worked. Better than anyone expected. Nexacor and Vierks didn't merge. They evolved. Collaborated. Built something new. Something stronger. And Avery. She was at the center of it again. But this time, it felt different. She saw Lucas often. Meetings. Discussions. Strategy sessions. They kept things professional. Careful. Measured. Until one evening. They stayed late. Again. The office was quiet. Empty. Just the two of them. You've been avoiding me, Lucas said. Avery didn't look up. We've been working. That's not the same thing. She sighed. Closed her laptop. Finally met his gaze. What do you want, Lucas? Honesty. No deflection. No games. He stepped closer. Slowly. Carefully. Like he was giving her time to walk away. I want to know if this, he gestured between them, is actually over. Avery's heart pounded. It should be. That's not what I asked. She looked at him. Really looked. At the man who had complicated everything. Who had hurt her. Who had changed her. No, she admitted softly. It's not over. Lucas exhaled. Like he'd been holding that breath for weeks. I was wrong, he said. Avery blinked. What? I should have told you, he continued. I should have trusted you with the truth. She didn't interrupt. Didn't soften. Just listened. I don't regret meeting you, he said, but I regret how I handled it. Avery's chest tightened. That doesn't fix what happened. I know. Then why say it? Because you deserve to hear it. Silence. But not empty. Not broken. Just honest. You walked away from the deal, she said. Lucas nodded. Yes. Why? He met her gaze. You already know why. Her breath caught. That was a big risk, she said. So are you. Avery let out a soft, disbelieving laugh. You're unbelievable. I've been told. She stepped closer. Just like before. But this time, there was no uncertainty. You hurt me, she said. I know. You don't get to do that again. I won't. That's not a guarantee. It's a promise. She studied him. Long. Carefully. Lucas, she said quietly, this doesn't work if we're not equals. We are, he said immediately. No secrets. No secrets. No manipulation. Never again. She hesitated. Just for a moment. Then, she closed the distance. This time, it wasn't reckless. It wasn't impulsive. It was a choice. You're still a bad decision, she murmured. Lucas smiled. Yeah, the worst kind. And you're still here. Avery smiled back. The difference is, she met his gaze. I'm choosing it. Months later, the company they built together launched successfully. Not Nexicor. Not Vierks. Something new. At the opening event, Janelle leaned over and whispered, so worth it. Avery glanced across the room. Lucas was watching her. Like he always did. Yeah, she said softly. Best bad decision I ever made. He walked over. Naturally. Easily. Like this was where he belonged. Ready, he asked. For what? Lucas smiled. For whatever comes next. Avery took his hand. Not by accident. Not by mistake. By choice. She thought it was just one reckless night. But some mistakes don't ruin your life. They rewrite it. The end. This was brought to you by Romance Hobbit. If this story moved you, subscribe. A new story is already waiting for you.